Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Rescue Mission live stream. We have a huge panel tonight with a lot to talk about. And boy, I am sorry that we once again must be talking about our state chair, Kristina Karamo, because I think we'd have a wonderful discussion about a whole lot of topics with all these people joining us tonight. So, but nevertheless, there are some things we must talk about, and here we are. So I think before we start, let me just introduce everybody. Some of you recognize some of our guests from previous streams. We have Dennis Marburger from, I want to say, Birmingham. Is that right, Dennis? State committee member.
Bloomfield Township, Oakland County, 11th District. Yes.
Bloomfield Township. That's right. I remember because you used to be the chair of the Birmingham Bloomfield Club. So Daniel Lawless, another friend of the show, state committee member from Novi. We have Bree Mogenberg and Andy Seabolt, state committee members. And Andy, you're the 2nd District chair, if I'm not mistaken.
2nd District chair and also former policy chair.
Right on. Jessica Toth, 12th District chair. Maggie Kurzweil. Maggie, I know you're from Oakland County. Are you a state committee member or a county committee member? Or
yes, state committee member, executive committee member. Yes.
Perfect. 7th District.
7th District. I'm caucus chair for the 7th District, Oakland County.
Excellent. And Warren Carpenter, you are, as you said the other day, just a precinct delegate, but quite an infamous precinct delegate, if I may say so. And we're going to follow up on some of the things we talked about on our stream the other night. And of course, we have our friend Patty P from Plymouth, who is also the chair of the Wayne 6th District. So we have
county.
Involved. I know, yeah, the Wayne County 6th District Committee. Yeah. So we have a number of guests from all over the Michigan GOP. And we're going to be talking a lot about what's been going on in the state party for these past few weeks, which had a huge turning point, I would say, just yesterday. So we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. Real quick, though, before we start, a couple of quick housekeeping announcements. You might have noticed, if you saw my email blast today, that I did something different announcing our live stream, which is that for the first link on the show, which usually is Rumble or Facebook, it was YouTube. Why would I ever promote YouTube more than the others? Well, the reason is because we have 944 subscribers on YouTube. We're getting close to that 1,000 mark, folks. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button and get us to 1,000, which is a milestone on YouTube. That actually gets us things. And if you're not watching on YouTube, that's okay. That's probably for the best, actually. But if you want, go over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's get us over 1,000. So there we go on that. And of course, whatever platform you're watching on, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And with that, Steven says somebody has feedback on. Yeah, Mindy hears it too. Let's see. Well, the only one, I think it's Daniel. No, I heard it too. That could be a YouTube thing. I don't know. And I'm using a different soundboard today, so that might be an issue on my end even. I'm not sure, but my speakers are off, so I don't think I'm causing the feedback. So we'll just have, okay, it must have been Daniel because I saw you muted yourself right before that went away. So anyway, I don't know exactly where to start with yesterday's meeting. I guess I'll start with this point. This is what I mentioned in the email today. There's kind of a big event in Washington this past week, which was that for the first time in American history, the House of Representatives expelled a member who had never been convicted of any crime. This guy, George Santos from New York, who I think people widely understood he had done some bad things, but that's not exactly unusual in Congress. It's not unusual even in this Congress. But yet, all of the Democrats, except for I think 2 of them, but virtually all of the Democrats and about half of the Republicans voted to expel George Santos. And then people on the internet started saying, well, wait, what about Jamal Bowman, the guy that pulled a false fire alarm? You know, a felony he pled down to a misdemeanor. What about him? What about Adam Schiff, the guy that told ridiculous lies that impaired the Trump presidency? What about Senator Bob Menendez? I mean, everyone knows he's been guilty of corruption, but he managed to get out of it in multiple trials. If that's the standard we're setting. And of course, the reason is everybody knows no one's going to ever expel a Democrat because you can't get the votes. Because Democrats will never, ever expel one of their own. So what did we do? We set a precedent that we will expel our own members and only our own members. We'll just reduce our narrow majority in the House, as much as we need to. But never will we get a Democrat expulsion. was a bad precedent. It was a dangerous precedent. And it was supported by half of the Michigan Republican delegation. And of course, every Democrat, even Rashida Tlaib, who herself has been under some calls for expulsion, but never mind that. And that reminded me of the time I actually saw some members getting expelled, and that was in the Michigan House of Representatives. Cindy Gamrat and Todd Corser. Some of you might remember that whole sordid story.
Controlled burn.
Controlled burn was one of the terms Todd used. The inoculation of the herd was another term. But it was such an amazing story because these were people that had. Oh, we have another guest on our show. Welcome Jessica Bearfield, Executive Director of Livingston County GOP. I'm just setting the table, Jessica, and then we're going to get started with our discussion here. But Cindy and Todd, they ran as these hardcore Tea Partiers, what in those days would be called MAGA, and they had all the hopes and dreams of the grassroots conservatives in Michigan behind them, that they were going to change a difference. They were going to make a difference in Lansing. They were going to shake things up. They were going to expose the Lansing Mafia, as Todd Corser called it. And it didn't take long for that whole thing to fall apart because their egos got to them. They thought they were the smartest people in Lansing. They thought they knew better than everybody else. They thought nobody would know that they were having an affair when everybody knew. And they had this ridiculous cover story that got out because guess what? They were also, imagine this, people with the Messianic complex were abusing their staffers. So their staffers recorded the entire scheme. And before you knew it, they were forced to resign in disgrace. And yet, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It was everybody else's fault. It was Cindy's husband for sending the threatening text messages. It wasn't Todd Corser's fault for cheating on his family and trying to get his staff to lie about it. No, it was his staffer's fault. It was the house's fault. It was the hotel's fault. And he filed suit against all of them. Filed suit against the Detroit News. And to everybody watching this, we were like, we supported you folks. We donated to your campaigns. And you have the audacity not to accept responsibility for letting all of us down. But they didn't. And this dragged on for years. There's a 2020 episode based about it. And I think we're getting to the same kind of point with Kristina Karamo because she cannot own up to what she's doing. It's everybody's fault except hers all the time. It's not my fault. It's the deep state. Everybody's against me because everybody is corrupt. Everybody's a rhino. Everybody's hostile. And I think at this meeting yesterday, the dam burst. I mean, there's been a growing number of people saying, this is a problem. This is over the top. I mean, if nothing else, not being able to raise money is problematic. And I'm not opposed to saying a CEO has to resign if they can't do the job properly. But after the stunts that happened yesterday, I think we're getting to the point where a critical mass is saying this is way too much. So with that, I've been talking for a long time, and I got to kick it to somebody that's at the table here. So I'm going to go to Dan because Dan ended up becoming the chairman of the meeting that took place last Saturday, which as of 18 hours before the meeting started, we didn't even know what the heck we were going to do. So Dan, why don't you let's start with what happened Friday night and how it is that we ended up having this split, conflicted state committee meeting on yesterday.
Well, thanks. Before we go into what happened Friday night, I just want to reach out and say that this is the holiday season. It's a season for giving, and everyone should be aware that there are children starving, and it's all the fault of the demonizers and the conspirators bringing Kristina down. That these children in Michigan are starving. So Renee said she would drop a link in the Facebook chat for Active Faith, a great food pantry here in South Lyon. Please, if you find it in your heart to donate, be generous. Thank you.
I will put this on screen right now, but this is in reference to something, Dan. So why don't you clue our audience in as to what this is all about?
Well, it'll come up later in the story, but at some point when Kristina realized that we had beaten her, she called us all demonizers and that we were, starving children in Michigan. And, and she said it live in her meeting that we broadcasted live in our meeting, and everyone heard it. And I mean, it's just like Adam was saying, everyone is at fault except her. So, but getting back to the story real fast, we're all planning on meeting 10 a.m. Saturday at the Redford in this church in Redford. Starts breaking around 4 o'clock Friday night on social media that the church is backing out, not going to let us meet there for whatever reason. I'm getting calls. Is this true? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not the church. And it eventually, within an hour or two, we kind of realized that it's true. And it took till about 7:30 before we heard anything from the chairwoman. And at that point, she said, of course, everyone's conspiring against her. Nothing can be done. We're going to have to do a virtual meeting. This was right about the time I was heading over to Matt Wilkes' house for his fundraiser, where most of us were heading that night. And so I called the member of our team, said, hey, if we're going to do a virtual meeting, set up a Zoom meeting at 9:30 on Saturday so that we could, we can talk about our strategy and how to handle this Zoom. And she said, well, why don't we all just get together and do the Zoom together? And I said, well, that's a great idea. I'm 4 miles from Matt's house, from my house to his house. By the time I get there, I find out that we've already had a room. It's booked. It's a couple hundred people. We had offered it to Kristina at like 5:30, and she, their team did not want anything to do with it. But we have the room booked. So there's no reason we can't meet in Commerce, half hour from where she wanted to meet, in person. So, okay, how do we go about?
Some people came from all over the state. I mean, people
Right,
drove hundreds of miles to be at an in-person meeting, only to be told, hey. And of course, the other issue is an online meeting is not really appropriate for having a state committee meeting of 100+ people, all of whom have the right to make motions, to talk about things. It's not the same online, where one person or a tiny group of staff have the ability to control who can and can't speak at any given moment. I mean, that's just not appropriate.
Yeah, it could be done. It's just it's harder. Like, we can have a discussion here and we can meet and unmute ourselves and jump in on each other when needed. So it could be done. It's just not conducive to what a meeting should be. So there's no reason we shouldn't have had an in-person meeting. I called Annie Delisle, the chair of the 8th district, let her know that we had this building, gave her the address. She got it out to the district chairs and then Melinda. By 8:30 at night, we had 9 district chairs and Melinda on board saying, hey, everyone, let's do the in-person meeting at this Commerce location. The plan was, we'll go there. We'll all just go to the virtual meeting together, but we'll be in a room together and we'll attend this virtual meeting. And that was basically kind of how this all plan came together. That was the intent until about 2 a.m. in the morning, when Kristina's email came out with her rules for this virtual meeting. And her rules were, everyone will be muted except the chair, which goes to Adam's point, like, that's not a meeting. Like, you can't mute everyone. And then she had a rule that the votes will be taken by this polling app, which is very ambiguous. And this is a backstory. Back in February, in our very first meeting, she criticized the previous administrations for allegedly having these phone votes where you like press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and said that they did that and then they just made up the result without any verification. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if she tells us that, and now she wants to do this polling app thing that will then let her tell us what the results are, that's not proper. That's not a way to have a meeting. So Warren helped out, got us on a phone call with Dave Dishaw, who's a very respected parliamentarian in the state of Michigan here. And we talked about strategy, like what can we do to, force her hand to give us a proper meeting. And the best strategy that he suggested at our first strategy, we had plan B and plan C, but we didn't need them, because our first strategy was to deny her the opportunity to have quorum. If she didn't have a quorum, she couldn't have her meeting. And so we scrambled through that, 9:45 to 10:45 to 11:15, that half hour when they were trying to start their meeting and figure out their quorum. We scrambled and, really encouraged the people in our room to not participate. And we had a majority of the committee, in that room. Everybody cooperated, everybody worked together. which we did just to have the room. I won't even go into all the details and that what everyone did to make that room happen. And we denied her quorum, and she could not have a meeting without us attending. At that point, we contacted her through the vice chairs. We had contacts out to Copus and so forth, trying to say, hey, let us have roll call votes. Let us mute and unmute ourselves so we can have a proper meeting. If those were agreed to, we would join your meeting. We'd have a meeting, and they would never even talk to us about it.
And we should say, the agenda for this meeting was highly controversial to begin with.
Yeah.
That they were talking about invading the Kalamazoo County GOP's business. They were talking about rewriting the state party's bylaws, all kinds of things where you would expect there to be contention. It would be wildly improper for there to be, for it to be done with an electronic meeting where you'd be vastly restricting what would happen. This is, by the way, this is Craig Mauger from the Detroit News. And here he's citing you, saying a state committee member tells me that I provided his notification that Saturday's meeting might not happen. So before this, they even found this new place. You're saying to the media, hey, you guys' story was what told me we weren't going to even have a live meeting that day. And then,
yeah, that wasn't me personally. I never talked to Craig, but at that point, but
okay.
This is where I talked to Craig more.
Maybe I got that from this subsequent.
Yeah,
where he says,
but that is the point.
Was at 7:30.
We did not hear anything from Kristina until 7:30, and this story broke on Twitter and that at like 4:00. While people are driving from the UP or from other areas to get their hotel rooms, it's just wildly inconsiderate of the members.
And the strange thing is, I've heard that Kristina's people are now trying to say that it was your guys' fault that the event was canceled because there was some kind of false flag conspiracy voicemail threats that got the church to cancel it, which on its face makes no sense because we're the ones that wanted there to be a live meeting and not to have a virtual meeting. And she was one that said, no, we're not going to have a virtual or not have a live meeting. We must have a virtual meeting. We insist on it being a virtual meeting.
Yeah, she's suggesting that we worked so hard to get her meeting canceled so then we could work so hard to set up a different meeting for her. I mean, it just makes no sense.
Yeah. Adam, can I add something here?
Yes, please. Everybody cut in. I don't want it to be between two of us.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Absolutely.
So first of all, I apologize for my voice. But I do want to say that I really believe what happened here and putting the blame on all of us, it's something that they use in psychology all the time. It's called projection, folks. She had this meeting. She projected onto us potentially what she, without speculating, could have been responsible for herself. But I think it's important for folks here to actually realize what happened. State committee members got together when that meeting was canceled. We found a location. There was somebody that had it paid for. It would not have even costed the MRP. That people were up early in the morning. They had that location ready to go because it was so important to state committee members to have a meeting with these important topics where we could all be heard. And so if we go and look at the past, when she introduced us to Jim Copus, that was an online meeting format. People were putting things in the chat. They weren't being recognized. They weren't being heard. We used Zoom before at the state committee meeting in Mackinac. People could not communicate with each other. People were not being answered on. So keep in mind, again, the folks that put this together, this is volunteer time. This is our time. It was our money. It was all of us that volunteered to make it happen. And that's where I'm going to use the word projection again. This is something that I believe was her projecting onto us, a failure or a decision that she made to not go forward. So just put that in your back pocket and keep again in mind, these state committee members worked hard to keep an on-site location moving and going.
Yeah, there is one point where, go ahead, Mackie.
Yeah, the additional point with respect to her virtual meeting is that it was not a Zoom call. It was not Zoom technology. For example, my cell phone could not download the software that was being used to run her virtual meeting. So there were many of us that couldn't even use the software that she was using. It's a Microsoft Teams or something. And for some reason, my cell phone would not allow that to be downloaded. I wasn't the only one. So individuals couldn't even participate in the virtual meeting if they wanted to, which made it even more necessary to go to the in-person meeting.
Which is a good point, Maggie. State committee never decided if we have to have a virtual meeting, what method we would use and what app we would use. So I actually appreciate you also pointing that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very strange for me as I was a guest in the audience. You would hear the Kristina's meeting kind of come and go while they were trying to figure out if they had a quorum. I think Kristina was filibustering, trying to get enough people wrangled onto the call to make it a quorum. And in the meantime, they gave all these reports, gaslighting and hurling accusations. I mean, Kristina would just blurt out here and there. She'd say, yeah, and this is all because people are opposed to me because they want us to turn our party back into an agent of the deep state again. It's like, actually, most of us, I think, started out as supporters of Kristina. Most of us voted for Kristina when she ran for Secretary of State.
Yes.
And several supported her when she ran for state chair. And
yeah, I personally voted for her in all 3 rounds. Oddly enough, Ryan Kelly. So I worked for Ryan, and he called me right before the convention and said, I'm going to endorse Scott Greenlee. These are the reasons why. And I specifically said to him, that's wonderful. I respect your reasonings. We've already tried to go the round of finances. We've had people that can bring in the money, but there was not the transparency that we all wanted. So this time around, I'm going to vote for somebody that I think has the honesty and the transparency we've all been desperately looking for, and hopefully the money will come. Sadly, now we have a worse situation than I think we had with the previous administration. It's just as non-transparent and just as dishonest, but now we're broke on top of it.
Yeah, I remember Kristina was saying she would call the debt that the party had when they started the year, which is, by the way, folks, not unusual. I mean, whenever you're a Republican Party organization, your job is to spend all of the money on the election, and then you make it back up in the year that follows. That's normal. Kristina called that sabotage debt. It's not her fault the party's broke. It's Ron Weiser's fault the party's broke. And that might have been true in January, but it's December now. It's December. We're halfway to the next election, and the party's still broke. And let's maybe talk about. Well, I know what you want to talk about first. The way I kind of put it in I think the email today was, we have financial problems that are now becoming legal problems, and maybe Warren, you want to touch on kind of where things have been going, because we talked a few weeks ago about this.
Yeah.
And things have not gotten to look any better for Kristina. In fact, there was this article, let me pull it up here, but in the meeting on Saturday, there was a remarkable admission from what's his name? The attorney.
Dan Hartman.
Dan Hartman, that's right. That there's more litigation coming. Let me see if I can find the article about that. In the meantime, go ahead, Warren, if you want to kick us off here while I find the article.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So we've been working on our report. I think that I did get a chance to send you an earlier draft, Adam. It's the report's going to be somewhere between 75 and 100 pages now.
Wow. With
a lot of dialogue and backed up with exhibits, affiant testimony, and so forth. We've got we're up to, I would say 20, 30, violations, and across different jurisdictions. If you're just talking about financial situations that have got them in criminal behavior, you can start at the FEC and start with the federal account and running Mackinac through the federal account, and kind of how the commingling of those funds kind of start. That culminates in a really big one, which is the Jim Caviezel, Jim Kopis loan from Lynette Wilson's trust. And the way that the attorney kind of was best to explain it to me is this: we all know who Stormy Daniels is. We all know who Michael Cohen is. The reason Michael Cohen went to prison was for a campaign finance violation, an FEC violation. And the amount of money was exactly $100,000. And the way that transpired was this: He was a third party payer, right? And that was the claim, is that it was for political purposes, for the campaign. So it was an in-kind donation in excess of contribution limits, and that guy went and served a prison term. So it's so incredibly incompetent. You have to start to think, is it by design? Because it's so brutal. I mean, another question for anybody on the call: are state party federal PACs allowed to accept corporate donations? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I think not.
Yeah. If you don't, the answer is absolutely no, right? Absolutely no. But if you go to the Mackinac event website right now today, okay, right now today, you can go down to the bottom and then you'll see the FEC federal account disclosure for MRP on the bottom. And then right below that, it's their corporate sponsors for the event. Okay. Every single one of those corporate sponsors that they're claiming gave money for a federal event into a state party PAC committed an FEC violation, and they're felonies if they're over $10,000.
Well, I wouldn't expect these companies to have done that knowingly.
No,
but
of
there
course
might be
not. But that's the problem.
There might be some issue with the entity there.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It's that they didn't know that they were getting into this situation. So, who's the earnestness on? You know what I mean? They wrote a check and thought it was going into maybe an administrative account, or they thought that these people knew what they were doing. They can't even hold an event. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh, she's struggling with fundraising. All right, I can see that. Inflation, times are tough, Bidenomics. I mean, we're all suffering. But you can't even hold an event to fundraise because you don't know how to do it properly. The report is so damning. People are going to prison. I say it openly. I hope they think that's defamatory. I can't wait until the cuffs show up.
Yeah, I did find the comment from a reporter who was at the event yesterday who said, Jan Hartman confirmed on the call that Comerica Bank sent the Michigan GOP a notice of default and suggests pending legal action to claim ownership of the former party headquarters, which is owned by a trust controlled by former chairs, which he calls the anti-grassroots movement and the snakes in the grass.
Yeah, so let's talk about the building and the Comerica situation real quick. In talking to the loan officer for Comerica and trying to get down to really what's transpired, Comerica reached out to Kristina very early on and said, hey, this debt was paid off. How are you going to settle the rest of this to make a plan? We need to make a plan to get rid of the rest of this debt. She never called them back. This is from the bank. This is their testimony. She never called them back. She never called them back to make the plan. She let it fester and fester and fester, kind of like the parking tickets in Lansing, right? One more, Kristina, and you don't have a license. Keep going, girl. So it's it's a pattern of behavior, right? It's a pattern of life. You go to her credit report, you can see all the collections on there. So what happened is that after they got it to go into default, then they cooked up this scheme, because really what Comerica is going to do is they're not going to come after the building because they can't. And they know that. They've had conversations with Eric and so forth. And there's probably going to be a filing from the trust now against MRP on this. But what Comerica is going to do, and I guarantee you that this is already in the works and it's happening, is they're going to get a sheriff's judgment, right? A sheriff's judgment against MRP, where they'll be able to seize all assets and property, laptops, computers, anything of value, right? And they're going to freeze and help me out here, Maggie.
Garnish.
They're gonna file garnishments on every single one of the state party's accounts. So any donations or dollars that then go into those accounts will be confiscated by Comerica Bank until the principal is paid.
Yep.
That's happening right now. These people are so inept, so incompetent. It's crazy.
I just want to catch up on some chats here on Rumble, because the Rumble ones don't show up in the usual feed the way others do. Lauren Turner says, I was so pleased that there was a live stream of the in-person meeting. I wanted to be able to listen and observe. Meanwhile, nobody could go to the virtual meeting without being kicked out. Yeah, there was an incident during the live virtual meeting too, where people in the Kristina herself, I think, were saying, "Yeah, someone's live streaming our meeting, so we might have a security problem," and they just without any evidence just accused you, Warren, and you, Dan, and I think Andy. Did she name drop you too, saying you guys are all the ones that were doing this when you weren't even at your computers at the time?
Everyone's
Jonathan Chapman.
Chapman, yeah.
Well, and they were blamed for a live Facebook feed. And the funniest part is if it was live Facebook, you would know who was streaming it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can't.
Says, I wonder. It's no wonder we lose all this wasted energy. I'm so tired of the infighting. Yet we are all tired of the infighting. But the alternative is just to let the situation fester.
Yeah, no, we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop until we can get to a resolution.
Does, is she's like, oh, all these people criticizing me, they're all the enemies. They're all the neocons. They're all the deep state. They're all the swamp. And at some point, you can't just take that kind of abuse.
Yeah.
So
it's either submit or fight.
And let me add this. When people say the infighting needs to stop, is that what the Democrats tried to tell all of us Republicans during COVID when we didn't want a mask and everything else? Bringing the truth forward is not infighting. It's bringing the truth forward. And we are screaming to collaborate. We are screaming as state committee members to try to help. The infighting that they are referring to is the frustration when state committee members do not get collaboration from the chair. They get kicked off from their committees. They are thumbed down and they are pinned down and they are controlled. So I just want to clarify again, infighting is not the appropriate term to use. It is state committee members trying to do the business of the party, and we're being denied.
Yeah, you saw what we could do in 12 hours. We got a venue, set it up, had all the equipment, had food and refreshments for everybody, and in less than 12 hours. And she couldn't do it, and she refused to accept ours as hers. We offered to give it to her. This is your meeting. You can have it here. She wants nothing to do with it. I mean, that's how she's been treating us all year. Wants nothing to do with us.
Yeah, there is a comment in the Rumble chat from someone who says, no one was talking about invading Kalamazoo County business. Kelly Sackett, the chair at Kalamazoo, is a disaster. She claims they can remove precinct delegates and remove them for 10 years. 10 years. Well, a couple of things to that point. First off, wasn't Kalamazoo on the state committee's agenda? Let me talk about this part of the agenda, and I want to hear from Maggie and Patty in particular on this too, because this is another element of this gaslighting going on, is that they're saying, oh, Kristina's not trying to, she's not trying to cause infighting or anything, but she's trying to rewrite the bylaws to intervene in county parties' business. And the Kalamazoo issue was on the agenda. Now, and by the way, to that commenter's point about the chair saying that she can remove precinct delegates. Precinct delegates don't have standing in county parties except at county conventions. And nobody can kick out precinct delegates from county conventions except the credentials committee, period. So that whole issue is not really an issue. The executive committees of a county party can regulate the executive committees. They have a convention. The delegates in convention assemble, decide who are the standing delegates. That's what happened at the state convention. There's a disputation over the Macomb County delegation. The state delegates chose who to be seated. So she has no authority over that. But let's talk about this issue with the county parties' autonomy, because this is something that has been going back a while. And Jim Kopis in particular from Wayne County has been talking about replacing all of the district-based county parties in Wayne with his one central Wayne County scheme. So I don't know, Maggie, do you want to talk about this, or Patty, do you want to? Maybe Maggie, why don't you start? Because you were leading the discussion at our meeting about this, about putting in a resolution to say the state party has to stay out of these county parties and district parties' affairs. I've never heard of a state chair meddling in county or district committees' business before.
I think, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Do you have me on the screen?
You are.
Oh, okay, because I don't have it on my, well, anyway, I'll get going then. For me, the problem, one of the problems with the Karamo administration is this new proposal to play around with the state bylaws. And this to me is probably the end of Republicans in the state of Michigan if this goes through. Basically what she wants is top-down control of the political process in Michigan that is basically designed to snuff out free speech and disenfranchise Republican voters. That's what's going on. We need to understand in the big picture what is going on. The plan is to reach into counties and start dealing with dismantling the county party. That's what she wants to do. She wants to dismantle 83 county parties. And basically,
or at least any elements of them that she doesn't like.
Yeah. And Maggie, I have a lot that I can speak of on that.
Perfect. Yeah,
So-
because this is a shared discussion. So
Yeah. So, Adam, just for those that aren't aware, so I'm a state committee member from District 2, but also I am a former conflict resolution member. Way back in June, Jim Kopis came on our phone call for conflict resolution, and he repeatedly used the words, him and Dan Hartman, they wanted to mandate and require all of the counties to do X, Y, and Z. And of course, the person that I am, I said, you guys, I don't know if you're eating magic brownies or smoking something special, but no counties are going to be okay if you mandate and require them. What are you going to do when they tell you to go fly a kite? Well, that's where conflict resolution comes in. If they don't want to do what they're supposed to do, they can remove those chairs and those executive committees. So if you remember when I started collecting the signatures to remove Dan Hartman, that came in about with the summit. The summit was the peacekeeping meeting that they were supposed to have that Dan and Kristina were involved with. Dan is an attorney, the Michigan Bar Code of Conduct. He never should have stepped into any conflict with Kalamazoo because of the previous representation he had for people that were on the so-called new leadership. Now, when they allowed that to happen, Kristina and Dan both approved that those delegates in Kalamazoo break state law. The state law says county chairs call county conventions. It does not say delegates. This is really important in this letter that Dan released. He tells us all what he's going to do. He tells us the plan. And this is why I would tell people you do not vote on Kalamazoo whatsoever. This is what he released when he approved the delegates to have a convention. I have warned that if there is state committee approval of this process, then there may be other counties that choose to reconsider their leadership. Do you understand what he was saying right there? Hey, we're going to let delegates across the state decide if they don't like their leadership. Let delegates just call a convention. I mean, crap, y'all, if that's the case, let's get delegates across the state, call a convention right now and remove Kristina and Dan. You don't have a number of delegates. You don't have rules. You have nothing that goes along with it. So if delegates are listening, consider that. If this is the way they want to roll, have you considered calling your own convention to remove them?
well, and I think, Bree, you're bringing up some really good points, and they're excellent points. And what's happened is that they're not transparent, so they're not telling you what they want to do. But to those that are able to read the code, we understand, and now it's getting out, and people are inflamed of what Kristina wants to do. So what does this top down look like? Well, what she wants to do is rewrite the bylaws for the Michigan Republican Party. And those bylaws are now going to have provisions in them that are going to give her or the approval of state committee, but we haven't seen the language yet, but we know what the concept is. To give her authority to come into a county and pluck that county chair out of his or her office and say, you know what? I don't think you're doing your job. So I'm going to replace you with somebody that I think is more appropriate for your county. And she's not just extending that authority to the county chair. She wants to be able to dissolve executive committees. And we need to understand what this actually means. So let's say, for example,
and this is something she was talking about doing yesterday. Is that not the case? Because
this has been going on since the summer. It's just that nobody was talking about it. Well, we're talking about it now, and she wanted to bring it up on Saturday and bring up these proposed bylaws. But you'll notice that in her discussions that she had yesterday, as she was filibustering, looking for quorum, she would not release what those bylaws look like because she did not want to flame the fire because the fire was already burning. So let's take a look at what that means to go in and remove a county chair, because this is kind of important.
Real quick, I just want to back up to one thing you mentioned earlier about the Conflict Resolution Committee.
Okay.
Is it not the case that Kristina dissolved that committee like about a week before this meeting?
So
Friday night after Thanksgiving, she sent out an email at 10:08 p.m. that dissolved conflict resolution, dissolved events, took Andy out as chair of the policy committee, removed me as vice chair of the issues committee, reshuffled all the committee members so that her people dominated the policy and the budget committee. And it really rankled everyone. We're calling it the Midnight Massacre.
So Adam, she did dissolve that conflict resolution committee. And one of the things that she had said was the committee was not active, nor were we getting any work done, which is not true. Yours truly here worked with Norm Schinkel and a couple of other state committee members. And we actually put forth a bylaw amendment that was sent forward to Olive State Committee regarding conflict resolution. What she meant to say is that she dissolved conflict resolution committee because we were not rubber stamping and approving this. You need to hear this. The MIGOP chair retains the authority and jurisdiction to address any and all conflicts if necessary to fulfill her fiduciary duties. This may include county committees, congressional district, or other subdivisions of the MIGOP, including those involving delegates. I can send it to you, Adam. This is directly the draft that she wanted to pass. And so what happened, and Andy can speak on this, when she dissolved conflict resolution, she removed those non-supporters of hers from policy. And then what ended up on policy for one of the agenda items?
Conflict resolution and also the constitution for the state party. So something I want, if you don't mind, want to jump in here.
Sure.
Going back to May and then early June, I found out over the summer Kristina already wanted me removed from policy chair. It's just she knew that it wouldn't be politically expedient. And look at her numbers since she's done this. So going back to June, I was already in the know of what their ultimate goal was. It just sounded really insane. I was asked to meet with Dan Hartman, the general counsel, who, by the way, the only time he's ever donated to a political candidate was a Democratic candidate for governor. And then Jim Kopis, who was brand new, first time I ever met him in June, no political experience. But we sit down in a room, and they're showing me all the other different bylaws from around the country and what their vision is for this new model that we have to do to break away from the deep state. And it was a lot of candy that Jim Kopis was throwing out from his van that he was inviting me into. And the more I listened to it, he kind of, got me liking part of it. Because Adam, as you know, we've known each other for 14 years, right? Mm-hmm. So you know that when it comes to empowering delegates, that's something I'm big on. But what he was showing me was more of this strong centralization for the state party, which I did not like. And it went everywhere from, if you have the word MIGOP, Michigan and an elephant, the name Republican or Michigan Republican, even your own county party, you're going to have to pay a licensing fee now. So that means a county party licensing fee. You want to run for dog catcher as a Republican, you're going to pay a licensing fee. They wanted to run it like a franchise. But I know we're talking about the budget and how little money we have, but it goes much worse than that. It's all about control, and you can't control a party without controlling the people in that party. And I could see their goal, but it took Bree on conflict resolution to show me how they would actually get to this. So they actually want to control the nominating process. This is from Jim and from Dan Hartman in this meeting back in June. The entire nominating process for every Republican position in the state of Michigan, including precinct delegate, and they'll do that by conflict resolution. If I don't have the right people, say I'm the chair, I don't have the right people on the convention floor, I only have to change 2 or 3 counties. If I know I got 40% of the vote, the opposition has 60, then I'll just have a supporter over here in Macomb or over in Kent County, drop a little conflict over here, change the slate of delegates.
And what can you do? You can stack the convention floor if you have the delegates. You can stack the floor.
It's a brilliant play when you put it all together, but she's going to be using, you see, she couldn't go through me. She couldn't go through conflict resolution, had to get rid of him. Couldn't go through me on policy, had to get rid of me. So what she's going to do now is use the state constitution. She's going to have the precinct delegates vote for it, knowing that, you know, the rest of us, we spend, unfortunately, too much of our lives in politics, right? So when we talk about these issues, we know right off the bat this is bad. But a precinct delegate with 2,000 other delegates in a room, whoever is vocal, oh, well, geez, I guess I'll just vote with these guys. That's what they're going to be pushing in August, and we're going to have a completely different party unless we organize for the August convention.
Well, there's additional problems with, I agree with you on everything, but there's additional problems with what she wants to also do. When she comes into a county, she'll decide, and it's either going to be on a conflict basis or it's just going to be, I don't like you, and I'm going to go to state committee and I'm going to get
There's
the
a numbering system she has.
Exactly. Yeah, her ranking system. Yes. And I'm going to remove you. So let's say, for example, that I'm in a county that has a Muslim or someone who's Jewish. That's my county chair. And Kristina, for whatever reason, does not like that county chair because of religion. So she will be able to fabricate and put together an excuse for why that individual should be removed. And then she'll, of course, put somebody in that's more compatible with her religious ideology. Let's say that the county chair is a Latino. And she somehow says, you know what? I don't like Latinos. I think that they're too organized. I don't speak their language. I don't want them running my county chair. So
by the way, if this sounds completely far-fetched, what you're suggesting,
no, it's
Maggie,
not. No, it's not.
Vice Chair Hassan Nemi never gotten to have a meeting with Kristina this entire year.
Oh, never. Exactly. So you're right. I thought you were saying.
No. I was just saying.
No.
In case the audience thought she was being hyperbolic, no, this has really been happening.
This has been happening. So what you have is a state chair, quite frankly, that through these bylaw changes can reconstitute a county chair to the liking of the state chair, which means that any opportunity to have a broad tent and to include and tolerate individuals of religious diversity, of different ethnic backgrounds, can be completely wiped out if that state chair does not like your face, your color, or your religion. And I'm going to tell you now, Kristina is not truthful. She lies, and she will lie about creating conflicts to replace county chairs and county executives. You got to understand, this is a very important point. It's not just the chair. Mark Fortin gave a very important talk on Saturday, and people came to me and said they had goosebumps after Mark Fortin got done talking. And Mark Fortin told a story where he ran into James Michael Kopis at Mackinac, and how James Michael Kopis came up to him and had a conversation with him. And basically, Mark Fortin said, "You're not coming into my county." And James Michael Kopis turned around and said, "I'll get rid of you." Now, this is Kopis talking. "I'll get rid of you. I'll get rid of your chair, and I will dissolve your executive committee and replace all of you."
And he means it.
If that didn't send shivers down the spines of everybody in that room, I don't know what is. So
Yeah, and,
next,
and if people don't think this is happening, let me be really clear about this. What do you think was the purpose of the Conflict Resolution Committee in the first place?
exactly,
The entire point of it was for the
exactly.
state party to be involving itself in county and district affairs.
And
Period.
why? Why? Let me tell you why, Adam. Because she didn't have the bylaws in place to do it according to the bylaws. So she needed an administrative arm to do what she didn't have in the bylaws. That is, you hit the nail on the head. Exactly. But
Maggie,
yes,
Adam,
yes.
if it's okay. So, with
Please.
that said, the other piece that people need to keep in mind, what she was trying to pass were policies and procedures of the Conflict Resolution Committee. Now, why is that important? If you're familiar with the MRP bylaws, you will know policies and procedures of the MRP do not exist. The committee can come up with operational procedures if they choose to do so for themselves. Now go back and recall conflict resolution will cover all of us, all the delegates, the counties, everybody, right? Conflict resolution will cover everybody. However, when state committee confirmed the conflict resolution committee, we were not confirmed to adjudicate. If you're not sure what that means, it means that conflict resolution was not confirmed to make any judgments. We were to offer our recommendations. So the big concern that I had is, Kristina, if you want to adjudicate, this needs to go back to state committee so you have state committee approval. Absolutely not. If it's a policy and a procedure, it would have been voted on by the 13 members of conflict resolution, because those would have been our operating procedures. So our operating procedures would have been for a committee that could not adjudicate, but the exact words that our chairperson used was, "Bree, we are not adjudicating as a committee. It is the chair that will be the judge, and the chair will adjudicate. And if she doesn't like a recommendation that we make to her, she will veto it. And if it's vetoed, it will go back to Olive State Committee, and it will take a 70% super vote to override her veto." So again, they were policies and procedures that would have been passed. 7 people is what it would have taken to pass to remove all of these chairs in the counties in a committee that was not given the power to adjudicate. However, it was made so that we would not adjudicate. The chair would do that on her own accord. Do you guys see the weaseling, the conniving, the deceit that all goes with it? This is why we were dissolved. They weren't getting passed in our committee.
Well, and there's another hinge to why she wants control. There's a couple more. Why she wants control over the counties. Counties, you have 83 counties in the state of Michigan. And those 83 counties can become a revenue stream to the Michigan Republican Party. So if she can get person X on a county chair, and they're now the county chair, and she can control who's on the executive committee, so she's got that done. All she needs to do now is tap the shoulders of the county and say, "You know what? All I need now are the keys to the safety box. And I also need the passwords to your bank account." And Andy hit on that when he was talking about the franchise fee. No, she wants to tap into these counties, and she needs permission to get into those bank accounts. And that's why she needs to get rid of the people that are standing in her way, that are going to oppose the franchise fee, the franchise tax, whatever, because she wants that county money as a stream of income. They may deny it. I'm telling you, they're going to lie right to your face. That's what they want. They want the counties to be an income stream for the state party. Additionally,
I have it on the screen now in case people were wondering what I have on the screen here. This is the document where that's what they were proposing, was the chair herself retains the authority to address any and all conflicts at any time, call a conflict to the SCC for review. That's what they put in black and white here, folks.
so
Yeah, so no, Maggie, just a quick question. Yeah, so that's a very good point. I mean, because I've asked myself and others, why would you do this, right? This isn't helping win elections, or, I mean, if it is, I mean, how is that working? But there has to be a financial motive, because there are some counties, and of course, one in particular that's been extremely successful, right? And then to target them for their financial revenue have to be the only ultimate goal.
absolutely.
When your revenue's been cut off from other sources.
Exactly. And here's the other catch to this. At first, when I was hearing about this, I started thinking and analyzing it and doing research and said, you're right. It's a plot. It's a plot to take over the Republican Party from the state level down to the county level. And quite frankly, she's ruined the state of Michigan party. Can you only imagine what she would do to the counties? You won't have a Republican elected as a county commissioner, as a county executive, as a county prosecutor. If the state comes in and starts telling you have to have this person as your county chair, you have to have these people as your executive committee. If you're a Republican, why in the hell would you even get involved with the Republican Party? It is completely destructive to the Republican Party completely in the state of Michigan. But here's the next component that's really important to understand about this plan to amend the bylaws. She wants to be able to also get rid of district chairs. That's also part of the proposal. It's not just the county chair she wants to be able to pluck out. It is also the district chairs that she wants to pluck out. Now let's sit back and think about that one just for a minute. How is quorum determined? Quorum is determined by state committee members. And is a district chair a member of quorum?
They are correct.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Now you know what's going on. She is going after quorum. She is going to make sure she has quorum to move forward. And mark my word, those district chairs that signed on to that meeting on Saturday are now going to be targeted. There is going to be a movement to get rid of district chairs that defeated her ability to get quorum on Saturday. And the way she's going to do it is she's going to call her salutes, and she's going to get on the phone and say, you got to do me a favor. You got to get so-and-so removed as district chair, and this is who you need to put in, because I don't have the bylaws yet to do it. So you need to carry water for me, and you need to get these district chairs under control. You need to do that for me. So it's not just control over the money of the county chairs. She now wants control over the seats and the quorum for her state committee meetings. That's what I think is going on. And mark my word, there will be a district chair targeted. And
to your point, Maggie, if I could, just two quick things.
Yeah.
One thing people should understand is that in the quorum aspect, if a member is not present in the meeting and they have not set a proxy, the district chair can appoint a proxy for them. So that goes to the quorum. And in terms of targeting district chairs, Dan Bonamy has already targeted Sue Aller in District 1 in an effort to remove her as District 1 chair. So that is already ongoing. Maggie,
when did that happen? When did that
came
start?
out. I heard from Sue today. So if anyone knows anyone in District 1, talk to your executive committee and reach out to them and tell them to support Sue Aller.
Okay, well then we're putting the pieces together. We know exactly what's going on. And in my last comment on the bylaws is I had an opportunity to listen to Billy Putman tonight talk a little bit about bylaws in Tuscola County. Billy, you better wake up because I don't think you have a clue of what's coming down the pike. Thank you for all your recommendations of what people should be putting in their bylaws. But guess what? Part of this plan that Kristina Karamo is proposing is that the counties will all have a template bylaws. So my bylaws in Oakland County will look like the bylaws in Tuscola, will look like the bylaws in Ottawa, that will look like the bylaws in Kalamazoo. We will all have the same bylaws. So Billy, thank you for all your brainstorming, but guess what? Christina's going to throw it out the door and she's going to throw you out with it. So those are my comments on the bylaws. And I would hope that everybody listening tonight gets a hold of their state committee member and says, vote no on any bylaw change under the Karamo administration while she's still hanging on for her dear life as state chair.
And Adam, I think it's important right now. There's a lot of people who, just knowing the way that politics are, and especially watching Jim, Dan, who only ever donated to Democrats, and Kristina, whose sole experience is being a poll challenger. As I've watched them over the past half year, I see Saul Alinsky tactics. Basically, start a fire and then point a finger and assign blame. It happens all the time. It's happened to me. Okay, so you mentioned Sue Aller now is being targeted. Let me tell you, I'm going to be honest. All of us on this screen right now are targeted. We've been targeted for quite a while, or at least as soon as we came out. But also those who are going to be working with us or supporting us will also be targeted. Don't be fearful of these people. I mean, I don't know with the rest of you, but I was a county commissioner for 6 years. There's nothing rougher in politics than being a local government official. This stuff, this internal party stuff is high school drama. Kristina is a great, I mean, she could win a pageantry contest. Okay. Jim, not so much because he hides in the basement more than Biden. Dan, love him to death, but he's not really a good, counselor. He's not a good attorney. So I just want everyone to remember we can band together and do what we need to do, but don't let their words while they're hiding in a virtual basement ever cow you from doing what is right. This is child's play, and we're on the verge of victory.
Yeah, I was going to say it. I mean, at this point, there are still people who are saying, let's give Kristina another chance, but the number is dwindling. People are realizing how
I say to those guys, give her your wallet. Give her your
Adam,
wallet because everyone else's.
You can share that email that I sent to Kristina after she sent out her rules for this quote unquote lecture she was holding, where no one else would be allowed to speak. I mean, I told her straight up, if we're not going to be intimidated, we're not going to be silenced. We're going to meet together in our person, and if she wanted to lead us, then she would be in that room with us. And she has no interest in leading us. She only wants to dictate.
I'll just read it.
Cut the drama, Daniel. Cut the drama, Daniel.
I'll read it because I don't want to put it on the screen because it's my email. But Kristina put out this email saying, we won't be meeting in person. We're very disappointed we won't be meeting in person, she said, which apparently she wasn't so disappointed at all, but that's what she said. So then, Daniel, you responded. This is yesterday at 5:40 in the morning. This is an absolute outrage and disgrace. One device per voting member. A very interesting rule indeed. What an embarrassment you are, Madam Chair. You spent nearly 4 hours leaving members in the dark and in limbo without even a word from you. Then you were the victim of an evil conspiracy brought about by the devil, and nothing could be done except hold a virtual meeting. Within minutes, a solution was presented to you, and you ignored it, just as you did all night to the many offers of assistance you received. Now, 6 hours later, by the way, Kristina's email went out at 2:00 in the morning on Saturday.
Yes.
So
you don't check your email at that time of day, or?
Yeah. So Dan, continuing on Dan's reply, now 6 hours later, desperate to prevent members from gathering together. We will gather. We will stand up to this tyranny. If you have any chance of ever effectively leading this party, you will be in that room with us. If you plan to abdicate yet another of your responsibilities and hide behind your screen, do us all a favor and resign. To which Kristina actually replied, which is amazing because Kristina has been non-responsive to.
That is the first reply I've gotten to anything ever, and many members haven't gotten replies on anything either. So this is the first time she's ever replied.
Our county chair was asking her over and over and over again about if she's going to address this issue with the data leak. Never a response from her. Nothing. But she did manage to respond to this email at 8:00 in the morning on Saturday to say, Daniel, cut the drama. End of email. That was it. That was it. A very thoughtful response from Kristina.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there you go, folks. Patty, do you want to elaborate at all about this Jim Copa's business? Because you've known him longer than some of us have.
Yeah, I can.
Sure.
So basically what it feels like to me is they're taking the WCRIC behavior and spreading it statewide. So
and
what I want to
people now,
so we in Wayne County we have 3 county parties. So I put it in the chat. Paula Ganacki put it in the chat. We don't have 83 counties in Michigan. We have 85. Because of population, we have 3 county parties in Wayne County. Wayne County Republican Committee is not an official county party, right? It's formed as back in the early 90s as a collaborative means for the different district portion committees to get together for things that are countywide, like judges, the county commission, etc. Back then, there were Wayne County was cut into 8 different county committees. So as Wayne County has lost population and we've had redistricting, we've had fewer and fewer. In the last 10-year cycle, we had 4, Wayne 11, 12, 13, and 14. And now we have 3, Wayne 6, Wayne 12, and Wayne 13th/13th Congressional District, which is both a congressional district committee and a county party. So that is Wayne County. We have 85 counties in Michigan. So county parties. So what happened with that is because this is a new districting, we have Wayne 6. And so we had to form a whole new county committee, new bylaws, all that stuff. So it started back in January at our convention where WCRIC tried to dictate to us that we had to vote on 12 people to send to WCRIC. Well, the bylaws say 9. The WCRIC bylaws say 9. But what they wanted to do as well, there was 9 times 4, 36. Now there's only 3 counties, so we're going to increase it to 12. Again, not approved bylaws. So this pattern is just continuing on where they just want to make all these things happen, but there's no bylaws, but they keep trying to push this stuff. So anyway, we didn't vote on our Wayne 6 County Convention, got a little contentious, but anyway, it wasn't on our agenda. We weren't going to vote on it. We had elected a county executive committee and we had to send delegates to state convention. That was it. We got it done. So then we met, we had formed our bylaws and we said, we will send our representatives to WCRIC after we establish our county party first. So we wrote our bylaws, and as a committee, we decided we would send 6 to WCRIC. We thought that was plenty to do the business required of that committee, which is county business. So collaborating on county commission, etc. Well, they didn't like that. And so we showed up, me, Matt Wilk, and Lisa. I don't know if she wants me to say her last name, but anyway, so we went to our first meeting as the representatives from Wayne 6. They wouldn't seat us because they didn't like us and they didn't want us to be the people there. So that was one meeting. We showed up again for the next one, same thing, wouldn't seat us as members. They tried to make us sign in as guests. And it got contentious again. We're like, we're not guests. We are here. Basically, WCRIC also is not the county portions have the authority over WCRIC. WCRIC is formed because of them. It's not the other way around. So, and any changes they make to their bylaws, for example, have to come to us. We have to ratify them. I guess that's never been done. So I don't even know if there's any bylaws floating around. As Wayne 6, we have never approved any bylaw changes to WCRIC. And that's another requirement. I mean, I never even received them. I don't know if Matt's received them, but anyway. So we go to that meeting. Again, they kick us out, threaten to call the police. Jim Kopis was there. People said from the crowd, he's a better lawyer than Matt, which we all kind of laughed at that for anyone who knows Matt. So anyway, so we left, we left, whatever. We're like, well, I'm not going to jail, like whatever. So anyway, next thing is well, everybody knows what happened to Matt back in May. So while Matt was still in the hospital, they called a vote of the 24 members. So 13 sent 12 and 12, but just Wayne 12 sent 12 people. And they had a secret meeting, secret vote, unanimous vote, 24-0 to ban Matt Wilk from ever attending Wickrick again.
The chair of the county.
The chair of the Wayne 6. At that time, Matt was still the chair. Yes.
Yeah. And in the hospital suffering from a stroke.
Still in the hospital, and lied to the people. And they said, oh, no, he's home already. No, he wasn't home already.
Amazing.
So anyway, so this is just giving you guys a little bit of background of what happened.
Yeah. These are control freaks.
And, and so listening to everybody talk, I mean, we've been dealing with this for almost a year in Wayne County with this constant, like, it's like a power grab or something. I don't know. I mean, everybody has a role, right? We are the county parties. We hold the conventions, whatever. Wickrick has a very important role. That would be where we could collaborate as a county when needed, but it's not an authoritative figure. Like, they don't send delegates to state convention. They don't hold a convention. Like, they just don't, they can't elevate delegates. They can't do anything that a county party does. But I've said from the beginning, Matt as well, it's important, it's needed. You don't need 12. That's why as a committee, we're like, we'll send 6. That's reasonable. We're going to send our chair, which was Matt at the time, our chair of our judicial subcommittee, which was me, and then our chair of our county commission subcommittee, which was Lisa. And then the vice chairs of this. So that's how we came up with the number of 6. And it was people related to our county subcommittees. Anyway, so they didn't like that. So that's still in our bylaws. It hasn't changed. Anyone who's seated on Wickrick now from Wayne 6, we do not recognize them.
Wow.
And that's in our bylaws as well. They don't, anything they vote on as a Wayne 6 does not bind us to anything. And that's all we do. So now we just continue on with our business of Wayne 6. But part of this whole county party takeover thing is they want to get rid of Wayne 6th and Wayne 12th and 13th as a county and just have one united Wayne County. So that's their end goal in Wayne County. They've said it before. They've said it at a Wickrick meeting. People have heard it. They've mentioned who they want the chair of that united Wayne County to be in the meeting. Anyway, yeah, so that's just a little, sorry if I'm rambling on, but that's the history of Wayne County. If you're here, you get it. A lot of people are like, why are you guys separate anyway? Well, because we have a lot of population. Wayne 6th is the fourth largest Republican county in the state.
Yeah.
And we're just a portion of Wayne County.
Yeah, and you're still larger than most of them. But I mean, to the essence of it, though, is
so
the people that Kristina's surrounding herself with are people who have a history of trying to interfere with county party businesses and try to create phony organizations and these structures to try to do it. I do want to bring some other folks into the discussion.
I just want to address this. Lori P. Oh, wow. Big difference. 83 versus 85, blah, blah, blah. Well, it is a big difference because we are 3 incorporated, or, we have our own EIN number. We are an official county. So yeah, it is a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ignorance like that, is not helping.
Yeah. Jay, real quick question from Jay says, I thought the reason you didn't have a unified Wayne County was a matter of state law. Is that not the case? Well,
it is a state law because we have a population of over 1.5 million
Correct.
people.
Yeah.
However,
it's a state law you could argue. It's a state law you could argue might not apply, but they've never contested it. It's always been recognized by the parties. Yeah.
Well, that brings up an interesting issue for another time, but you're absolutely right, because that population requirement, I am looking at quite frankly, that issue, just from an academic, for academic reasons for my own county, is that population requirement, which is under the same statute that was ruled predominantly unconstitutional.
Yes.
Under Hype Manus versus Dick Austin.
Correct.
So the argument, the constitutional argument that I'm looking into is that that particular requirement that says if you have a population over 1.5 million people and you then have to break up into your congressional districts based on population, I believe violates the First Amendment right to assembly. So I think there's an additional constitutional argument to knock out that population requirement. And if Wayne County wants to be its own county, they can. Screw what Copus wants.
Yeah, I do want to move
No,
on.
but Copus is the one who wants that. We do not want that. We are very happy having our own county committee and working forward. You know what I mean? But the other thing that's funny, it's like, okay, but don't you think if we united as a Wayne County, we would have a separate, someone would still have to win that chair. It's not going to go to the person who's there now or the person who they named in the meeting that they might want to be the chair of that united Wayne County, who's already in another position. So
I really do want to move on, folks. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, and I've still heard from Jessica and Dennis, and also then I think at some point I also want to close by some people in the chat have been asking about solutions. And we do want to get to that too. But Jessica, you are the executive director of the Livingston County GOP, and you recently resigned from the finance committee, and your
budget
letter
committee
of resignation was very public and very poignant, and I thought in a way almost frightening. We had I was having a discussion with some of our county party leadership, and you had said that you resigned from that committee because you feared for what you were being exposed to by being on that committee. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that?
Yeah, I think that I've been pretty vocal at the state committee meetings and some of the chats, and trying to be very open and honest about the things that I've been seeing and experiencing on the budget committee since June, when kind of the red flags all started flying when she removed Matthew Johnson, and that was all fine and well, and I was happy to continue to do that when she was just running her show and doing her own thing and circumventing us, and we were finding out after the fact. But things took a drastic change for me when we received a 48-hour notice to an emergency meeting regarding the line of credit. And immediately that raised an alarm for me, because I'm thinking to myself, since April, we had never in any time that I can remember been given any kind of authority or decision-making capabilities on anything that was important or major. So why now, when seemingly the ship is about sunk, are we violating our 5 days notice bylaws to call us into a meeting that's so emergent that she needs, our input? And I had sent immediately a response to all of budget, and I said, you guys, this is concerning. I feel like this is a setup of sorts. Whatever this emergency is, she doesn't want to be the sole person sitting there holding the bag at the end. And I have a fear that she's going to blame whatever outcome this is on budget. So I show up to that meeting. We are notified that the line of credit is, imminent foreclosure, that they believe that the MRP owns or has a right to the trust building, and that the bank will foreclose on this building. And they gave us a number of options. It was framed that this is not your choice to make. This is all Kristina. She's merely pulling you guys in as advisors to give your opinion, and she will make the decision because it's her decision to make. You're just giving your opinion. Please tell us what you would like her to do. And one of those options was selling the building. I abstained from voting because I did not feel right weighing in on this decision, because I didn't think we owned the building. And I just had a number of different issues for myself that I was not going to give my input on what I thought she should do. A short 4 days later, I get a phone call Tuesday morning that an email had been sent by Jim Kopis to some of the trust members for the building that Budget, in fact, had voted to sell the building, and because Budget decided the building would be sold. Now, that is not at all how it was framed to us. And I reached out to a few attorneys that day, including Eric Doster, who is the attorney for the trust. And it became very evident that my suspicions were correct. We were tricked.
I should say, by the way, for people who don't know, Eric Doster was the state party's attorney for many years. He knows his business.
Yeah, and he was very clear, you know, Budget voted. This is a vote. She might have told you that it was your opinion you were giving, but this is a vote. You voted. And that's how it's going to be viewed in a court of law if this goes anywhere. And I abstained. And he says, that's not going to matter if Budget gets pulled into this, which she's already pulled you in. It's all of Budget that will be named. We're not going to release you, because he was not saying that that's where it's going to go, but we wouldn't release the members that voted against it or abstained. You're going to be named as a whole. And then I made a couple more phone calls to attorneys, and it's like, well, you would have to get your own, you know, attorney. You would have to be representing yourself, just like the false electors. And, you know, I'm a mom, I have young kids, you know, I'm not exorbitant, I'm not wealthy. And I'm thinking to myself, the leader of my party just pulled me into a dangerous situation, tried to blame me for her own decisions and her own failures, to a potential where I could be dragged into a lawsuit and needing to figure out how I'm coming up with finances for an attorney to protect myself and defend myself over something that she did. And she tricked us into, you know, basically putting some of the blame on us. That's not a safe situation. And I can't be anywhere near something like that.
Yeah, I saw there's a comment in the chat that says the building is not owned by the party. And that's been known since the beginning of the year. Like, there was news articles about this in January. The state party did not own that building.
And you're correct, because Monday morning, I went and contacted the Ingham County Register of Deeds. And I believe I spoke with their chief deputy. And because I wanted to know, I didn't think that we had any right on the building, but I wanted the legal documents to back that up. And she was able to, you know, give me the deed and the legal documents for that. And so Monday morning, I had concrete information. Like, I knew that there was that was listed to the Seymour Street Trust, and that there was an additional affidavit on file that the sole member of the Seymour Street Trust, or the Seymour Street LLC, not trust, was the MRP Trust. So that is the past chairs of the party. It's not Michigan Republican Party. It's not Kristina Karamo. And it further goes into, in that affidavit, that for the building to be sold, it would have to be, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, a unanimous decision by the members of the trust, so the past chairs of the party. And I sent that off to all of Budget immediately when I received it, forwarded off those documents, to which I immediately, you know, got a reply from Dan Bonnaby that I'm not an attorney and I shouldn't be giving legal advice. I wasn't giving legal advice. I was just sharing legal documents that I received, but alrighty. So I knew before I even got the call that she was trying to, like, blame us for this decision, in part, at least, that we had no legal claims on this building based on, you know, these documents that I had.
Yeah, Stephen asks, how can one sell something they don't own? That's a good question, Stephen. That's called a criminal misconduct. And
but what you guys sorry to jump in, Adam. What you guys have to understand. This goes back to the Kalamazoo thing too. I got a
yeah, someone's got feedback. It might be you, Warren, or it might be Dan. I don't know.
Mute and unmute. Maybe it's better.
You're better now. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So what they're trying to do in all these situations is present precedent, right? Whether it's the Kalamazoo vote in the meeting, right? To present a precedent, to take a case on Hype Manus, or to reach out to the bank and say, we have this piece of collateral, and then, you know, file a lawsuit against the trust. Because if you notice on the most recent budget item that came out, the balance sheet, they have the building included in the balance sheet now, and the building's depreciation. So they're trying to do is set precedent that they have right or ownership of these things, and then they want to adjudicate these things in the court of law because Hartman can file some, hole in the shoe lawyer, lawsuit against these people and drag this process out. Nothing is about accomplishing anything. Everything is about a distraction while they milk the party for money and for information. They're looking for data. And they're looking to support their lifestyle while they go through this. None of this is about the party. Not a single thing of this is about the party. It's about tearing down structures, right, and leaving it. And there's no phoenix that's going to rise from the ashes. The only way the phoenix comes is what we saw on Saturday: 57 in a room, 8 hours notice, saying no more. We had 4 more on a call that I talked to. And they said, hey, do you want me to get off the call now? I said, no, you're already on now. They don't have quorum. Stay on, right? Stay on as sleepers, right? The numbers are there. We are the majority now. We are the party now. That's the message. We should be sitting home. We don't need to go around and bite at the edges. This report's going to drop a hammer on their head on Wednesday. And when this thing comes out, people are going to be charged. People are going to be charged. What we need to start worrying about is, how do we circle back after this? We have a month to work on it, right? We have a month. The 27th is the date. The 27th is the date. Let's take this. Let's take this cancer out. Let's finish what we all started, and let's move this party forward and show them what the grassroots can really do.
Yeah, and to that point, you would think if someone had any human decency, even if the bylaws required 3/4 to remove you, when you lost the confidence of the majority, you would say, I'm a lame duck. People don't have the confidence. I care more about the mission than myself. I'll let someone else step in and do whatever I can to coordinate the most peaceful transition possible. But we all know it's gonna happen.
Ron Weiser after August was not to be found, right? That was a demoralizing vote for him. A man that had given, millions and millions of dollars to the party.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, to see 88% say, Bafangul to him. Like you got to understand.
Yeah, he funded the Unlock Michigan campaign. He put Michon Maddock in his co-chair, and the grassroots spit in his face and told him to get lost.
Yeah, but listen,
you
can't say grassroots and think it's like the average Joe. You got to understand that this is a very coordinated effort that started back with Michigan Precinct First. This thing has been pushing and pushing and pushing. We're all here because a lot of people started working on this long before the last general election. That's what you got to understand. The narratives about Ron Weiser started getting spun in early 2021.
Yeah. It started with Laura Cox's people.
Correct.
Yep. But going back to Jessica's point, though, you had to leave the budget committee because there was legal exposure that you were facing, which every member of the budget committee is going to be facing. I mean,
I'm actually honestly concerned for some of the folks on there. I've tried speaking to some of the ones that I've developed friendships with, and tried to tell them, what I know and, the information that's provided to me by, a number of very competent attorneys that are competent in, political law and campaign finance law. And, they're aware and they're hanging on, but, I'm a mom first, so I have to worry about my kids. And I got into this because I wanted to do something good for my kids. And if I'm now having to fight legal battles over something that I didn't even do or agree with, that's not very helpful to my children.
Litigation can get extremely expensive and be extremely intrusive very easily. And, when I first heard a lot of people were resigning from their state committee posts, I thought, well, that's bad because they need to stay there and vote against her and all that stuff. Now I realized what it was really all about is protecting yourself. And I almost feel bad for people who are trying to get involved as long as this goes on. At least certainly on the budget committee level, where you've got some fiduciary accountability that could lead to legal exposure. I'll go to Maggie, and then I want to talk to Dennis for a little bit about one of the accomplishments we actually did make yesterday. But Maggie, go ahead.
Just real quick, going to what Jessica is saying. Jessica, you're going to be a great witness for the prosecution. And I'll tell you why. Because anybody sitting on that budget committee now, clearly knows that there's a problem. So they can't say they're ignorant. What they are doing is they're hanging on to an ideology, hoping that no one knocks at their door. But they clearly are very complicit. They are co-conspirators in allowing her to move forward with the fraud that's being perpetrated here in the state of Michigan as to the finances of the Michigan Republican Party. You were smart. You will be the best witness, and then you will be a good witness against those that stay on budget committee, because they now know that what they're doing is wrong.
Real quick, Michelle Voorhees says, side note on Ron Weiser, first time he was elected chair, he tried to amend the bylaws to include county party chairs as members of the state committee. He wanted to give more county party chairs a voice. Quite the opposite of what's going on now. John C. King on Facebook, that wasn't the right comment I pulled up there, says, protect oneself. Don't the Trump slate of electors know that? Well, the difference there, John, is that the Trump electors had absolutely no precedent for there being any legal criminal assaults on presidential electors in our nation's past history. There's been plenty of evidence of people with fiduciary responsibilities committing wrongdoing, getting in legal trouble. That's a very different thing altogether. And I think to the extent you could say, well, every person who was a Trump supporter has to worry about, the Democrats coming after him. Well, yeah, politics is a contact sport, but that doesn't mean you want to welcome legal danger to yourself. You want to try to minimize that as best you can. All right, now I do want to go to Dennis, because Dennis, you're on the policy committee, if I'm not mistaken, and you got some, or not the policy committee, it was the issues committee, or?
Well, thanks, Adam. Yeah, no, I'm not on that one either, but I did have a resolution that I had brought forth at our district, the 11th Congressional District Executive Committee. And then at my request, our representative on the issues committee at the state level took it forward. That's Bill Letheben. And this resolution was also passed by the Muskegon County GOP. Melinda Pego got it through there. And essentially what it calls for is enforcement of U.S. law known as Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act, which forbids U.S. taxpayer money, American taxpayer money, being sent to Azerbaijan because of actions Azerbaijan has taken against the Republic of Armenia and against an area known as Artsakh, or also known as Nagorno-Karabakh.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what they're involved in is genocidal ethnic cleansing, imperialistic conquest, and working together with Turkey and trying to set up a neo-Ottoman caliphate. And they're also intertwined with a number of other powerful foreign actors. It turns out they're the largest supplier of oil to Israel, and Israel's has been for a number of years their largest weapon supplier. So they have very high capabilities there, but they've committed egregious war crimes on a massive scale. This has been going on for quite a long time. This section of U.S. law has been waived by U.S. presidents now for about 20 years. But the idea behind the resolution is to enforce the law, to not waive this section, stop sending money, our hard-earned money to them, to their government, and stop U.S. military collaboration with them, and then further calls for release of hostages they've taken, and to stop their threats, their attacks, and their cultural genocide of priceless things.
I don't want to cut you off, but since I do see a comment in the chat, and there's two other resolutions we also got through, one on military aid to Ukraine, and remind me what the third one was, but to this comment, he says, what's this have to do with Michigan? I'll tell you what, John, here's the funny thing. Kristina Karamo's entire campaign was, we're going to take action on all these issues. We're going to smoke out the rhinos, and we're going to get involved in policy, and we're going to say who's good and who's not. And her administration never did any of that. Never weighed on any politics, any policy, but saying we don't support foreign aid to getting, this wasn't that kind of the America First thing that Trump ran on? And yet the committee actually got some opinion comments through on issues that are controversial and are things that the Republican Party was claimed for so many years it stands for. Anyway, Dennis, if you want to, and please refresh my memory what that third resolution was too, because
the third one had to do with the political prosecution of Donald Trump.
Yes.
So my suggestion was we do all three of them, and essentially we ended up doing that. The first one, the one about Azerbaijan was separated out. But what's the way, John? The way this impacts Michigan is that we're United States taxpayers. We are also subject to the Federal Reserve inflationary monetary policy and subject to the vagaries of U.S. foreign policy here in Michigan. And so the idea behind here is it benefits us to speak out about these things that are being done wrong and harming Michiganians as well as others. So that was the point there. And the Ukraine resolution was also a very good one, as you point out, Adam, and going against the grain of what they're doing in D.C. and talking about the deep state.
Right this minute, the Republicans are scrambling to pass a $50 billion aid package for Ukraine. I think that might be an important thing for the state party to weigh in on, because the American taxpayers aren't crazy about going to war for in a war we've been losing for the past year.
Right. And I should just point out the issues committee at the state level saw I heard about it, mine and also the Ukraine one. They had passed it. I was hopeful we could have voted on it at the committee at Mackinac, but they said, well, the timing didn't quite work out. So it was going to come up this time, but then we had this other split. But at least the folks at our meeting, where we had 57, heard it, and Daniel was very, very helpful in letting me explain it to people. And so it got voted through. And I think it's a very, very positive thing that happened. And I do believe that there was the sentiment is in favor of it with the folks that weren't at our meeting as well. So there was that. In fact, Steve Carra,
as soon as the tyrant was out of the way, the deliberative body of people elected to represent them on state committee actually was able to do things that they were sent there to do. Amazing how that works.
Right. And Steve Carra, by the way, sent me a text that he said they read this in their meeting and he thought it was a very well done resolution. And so that was nice. But so anyway, I agree with you. This was a very positive thing. And I just want to add one quick thing about the use of the word fiduciary, because we hear how it's been used by the people in charge of the party, misused, okay, and used in the opposite way that it should be used. And the people that are on this call are actually performing in a fiduciary manner, putting the people that they're supposed to be serving first. And that's one of the main points about that. So thank you, Adam.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've been going for more than 90 minutes here. I do think we want to get towards a conclusion here. And I think some people in the chat have been asking, well, what are we going to do? What are we just complaining about this for? And Martin, maybe you want to speak about what you guys are thinking. I mean, I think broadly speaking, it's really simple. Kristina's got to go.
Yeah.
And there's no other way. The longer we put this off, the more damaging it's going to be in the upcoming election, when Donald Trump will be on the ballot, presumably, when the state house will be on the ballot, when courts will be on the ballot. You know, if this just festers and gets worse, and I saw a comment, I'll read this one too from this gentleman who I think might be Shane Trejo. My worry is that the devious Attorney General Dana Ness will look the other way on the massive fraud until an opportune time. Yeah, an opportune time like spring, summer,
correct,
fall. Yeah, I mean that's when the hammer might drop. Absolutely.
It'll be at the most opportunistic time for a Democrat and the worst possible time for a Republican. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's just circle what's coming down the pipe in the next 90 days. You've got a presidential primary coming up, right? You have a presidential primary coming up. I know for a fact that MRP has already accepted checks from candidates at the sum total of $20,000 per candidate. Multiple candidates have already paid in to the party for this primary. All right. So, with the financial situation, I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. So, looking way out there, like the bad isn't done being bad. So what I say is we give ourselves a late Christmas present, early New Year's present, right? We all get involved. We all batten down the hatches. We call the state committee members. We whip our votes. And on the 27th, we either amend the bylaws to lower the threshold to vacate, or we go by another means or method, and we remove her as chair. We know on this call what those numbers are, what the thresholds are, what the strategy is. We're not going to blast it out here now because we're in the final throes. I started this just after Mackinac, and I said I wasn't going to stop till she's done. I want to deliver that Christmas present to the Republican Party. I want to deliver that New Year's resolution of new things and new beginnings on January 1st. And I think that the rest of the body will solve the issue of who will lead us and what the path is forward. But nothing happens. No movement forward can happen until she's gone. So that'll be my laser focus for December. And then I'm going to take a couple months off and let you guys do what you're elected to do.
Hey, Warren, I think a little bit of Christmas vacation is appropriate. The shitter's full here, Clark.
Shitter's
Time to move
full.
forward.
Yeah, so those are my thoughts. If anybody else wants to pipe in about that, I just think that we got to get laser focused, right? You know, there's a lot going on personally, but there's not a lot going on politically in the month of December, right? So let's make it a present to ourselves and a present to the party by finishing what we started, and working to remove Chairwoman Karamo. We're there. We got the votes. We just got, now it's just time. Let's dot our I's. Let's cross our T's, as Dan always likes to say, right? Make a list, check it twice. We know who's been naughty.
Yep.
We know who's nice.
And we know who's nice. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's all coming down to the 27th. We just got to keep whipping the votes. You got to call your state committee members, and we'll get it done. But that's the only path forward. She's not going to resign like she should. So we're just going to have to do it. We have to do it and figure out.
And I do want to take a minute to celebrate for all the state committee members on this call. At the very first meeting, the vote against with Annie Delisle as secretary, I think was a 28 to a majority of 80. Right. Then we go into later, it was 36. Then at Mackinac, it was 42. We had 57 plus 4 on call. That's 61 that were on our side. Right. That's the first loss. She lost a vote. She lost confidence. She's not the leader. We are the party.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, Warren, that point really needs to hit home. Is that the no confidence vote, whether you put it in a resolution or not, it happened on Saturday.
Yep.
There is no confidence in Kristina Karamo or her team, or otherwise those 57 people would not have been there. The no confidence has already taken place. We just need to implement the no confidence through her final removal at the end of December.
That's exactly right, Maggie. That's why, we took every opportunity at our meeting Saturday to, conduct ourselves in a, professional, respectful manner. And, there were opportunities to do things that we, could argue were not authorized to do because we weren't like an official body meeting, as she called it. But we did what we did by denying her quorum. By making sure that, and everyone knows, it's in the press, it's in the media, everyone knows on the state committee that she doesn't lead that committee. If she could lead a committee, she would have had enough of the committee on that call. But we said, don't go on the call, and they followed us. And everyone joined us, and we need more. We need to make it from 57 to 65. We go to 65 to 68, 68 to 72. We keep going. We keep getting more members, and the more she lashes out, like she did on Saturday, the more it helps our cause. And the more you can call your state committee members and tell them how you feel, the more it helps our cause. So please do call them.
Yes, just one comment on that. Yes, and that's also why I want to come on, because I mean the media is portraying it that we tried to hold our own state committee meeting and usurp her power. That was absolutely not. That is an inaccurate statement. And I really took exception to that. I agreed with, several of the other district chairs, giving people a voice, conducting proceedings in a proper manner, given the topics of discussion we had, was imperative. So I thank Dan Lawless for his leadership. And again, you're right, there was things that came up for a vote and they was absolutely, they were removed. And I appreciate those proper proceedings.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, Warren, hop in.
Yeah, great job, Dan.
Okay. Well, thank you for. I thought you had something else to say.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say. You can juxtaposition that with, like we knew that you can't do certain things because we didn't have the body and we didn't have the chair, right? And we didn't try to go beyond whatever that authority was. If anything else, we were very restrained because that's what the body's supposed to be. Right. We know what the body's supposed to be. It's these people that have no clue what's supposed to be going on in our party that are the ones railroading it into the ground.
Right. We've seen what happens when you have your separate meetings. We saw it in Matt Macomb. We saw it in Kalamazoo this year. We're not having separate meetings. We're not doing things outside of her. We were saying, we want to do this together. Will you join us, the majority, in doing it properly? And when she said no, we said, okay, well, we're going to still, monitor your situation. We're going to still, she kept that meeting going for 4 hours with people. I can't imagine
with no
4
official
hours.
business.
No ability to do official business. No, you're all on mute. So just let us talk. It's like a 4-hour lecture. That's what it wasn't a meeting. It was a lecture
about the deep state.
Yeah, that's what it was.
You down.
Yeah,
And
so
the
I
starving
mean,
children that are our fault.
yes, and that link is in the Facebook chat. If you scroll up, Renee dropped that link for Active Faith. So please
throw a
go
couple
feed some
dollars that
starving
way.
children. Absolutely, we do care about the children. Take the time to donate. But yeah, we wanted to make sure we were very restrained and just doing things properly. And I think we accomplished that. And we definitely accomplished a lot denying her quorum. It changed the entire narrative.
Well done,
And it
everybody.
was a cause.
Well done. To the demonizers and the Democrats and the deep state, well done.
Well done.
Very
Okay.
good.
That was
Adam,
great.
are you back?
That was great. Thanks, everybody. This was a great meeting.
Yeah. Thanks, Dennis. Is Adam back, or we keep losing Adam?
I know he
At
keeps
least I do.
cutting in and out here.
It'll be the longest
Yeah,
best
he said we could wrap it up. So
Yeah, let me see if there's any other comments. I can't bring them up on the screen.
Well, I will take this time to shamelessly promote real quick.
Go ahead.
On Wednesday before the presidential debate, Bree and Andy did an interview with CNN. I was interviewed actually at the site of the meeting by CNN as well. And before that interview drops, we're going to try to drop our report from the Whistleblower Fund to the public, but first to all state committee members and all county chairs, then to the general public. This report's been in action and been worked on since before Mackinac. Many people, even several on this call, have helped out with documentation and evidence to get us there. So please be on the lookout for that, and we're excited to bring it to the public.
Yeah, I mean, Warren's done a lot of work. He started out sitting in a dark room as a conspiracy theorist and promising us that, his 14 levels of Kevin Bacon connections will all come to fruit. And a lot of them have. So, we really have to shout out to Warren because, he spent a lot of time and money on this investigation and getting the documents. So, he has proven himself. And Adam, are you back with us?
I think so. My phone my internet just completely went haywire for a few minutes there. And I assume you guys have been chatting the entire time and I've missed all of it, but
yeah, we were just kind of trying to wrap up a little bit, and
that's fine. Did anyone cover this question? I just saw this from Paula. Who do we have to replace Kristina? I don't know, but I'll tell you what.
So the process,
someone who I think would be excellent, and his response to me was, "I'd love to be at state chair. I don't think I would be the next state chair because whoever comes into there is going to be walking into a legal minefield." And so, I hate to say it, folks, because that's a good question. Is what do you do if you get rid of Kristina? I would settle for just about anybody at this point. No, not this guy.
Yeah, right.
With somebody. And if anyone knows of anyone who's expressed at least a tolerance of the idea, I'm certainly open to it. But someone who's ideally someone that can drop a lot of money into a legal defense fund very quickly, because there's going to be issues there for sure.
What a mess.
Yeah.
It just, we shouldn't be talking about this, right? It's 2024, really? We're like, we're going to have this bylaws change. Is that what we should really be focusing on in 2024?
I totally agree, Patty. There are so many bigger things.
Yeah. Aaron says, for the record, that was a joke. We know. Ann says, there are a few qualified individuals. There are. Question is, will any of them be willing to do it?
I'm
Jeff
sure.
Says,
Jeff
there's
says
a few.
Lena
or Ambassador Huckstra. Like I said, at this point, I'd take probably just about anyone I could get. But
there's a few that have expressed.
Go
There's
ahead.
a few that have expressed interest. I know that's an eager question people want answered. For there to be change, you have to be dissatisfied. 1, 2, you have to have an idea of what you want that to look like, and 3, you have to see a path forward. And that's kind of some of those conversations are happening behind the scenes, and I'm hoping some of these folks come public, before the 27th. So anyone on the fence can have a chance to decide if they like the path forward or not.
Well, would that be the plan? I guess I'm not really that involved in this, but is that if that meeting happens on the 27th, would there then be an election there and state committee would elect a new chair? Like, how does it work?
No, so the
Not
bylaws
there.
the bylaws go this way. So after the chair is vacated, it's 30 days to hold a special election. Co-chair is chair until that transpires. So then you'd have a period of time before February, right? Before February, where the candidates that wanted to express interest at time of having an opening, which I think is probably why a lot of these people aren't coming forward or saying anything. Nobody wants to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to take this person's job. But what I think we should do is then that gives 30 days for candidates to come forward to the body. And then it's election of state committee only. It's 50+1. So, they're going to be the ones to elect the new chair. But they'll have 30 days to vet these individuals, right? And then, be whipped and called and, have delegate input and county chair and, and grassroots input. And then, you guys will take a vote.
Yep.
Yeah. And to Warren's point, like the most serious candidates are not going to come forward until she's removed.
Correct.
So there's all this speculation about who, there are people that can handle the job. Once she's removed, that we'll have that opportunity to talk to them and make a decision.
Yeah.
And I think too, as we begin moving forward, it would be a very interesting show to do, Adam, is to have a variety of people from throughout the state, county chairs, delegates, do nothing but come on and talk to you about what they're looking for in a new chair and what a new team would look like. But I think we also need to be realistic. And, if I could speak to the conservatives and the patriots and the grassroots out there, is this new chair coming in is going to need a lot of help. And you need to put aside whatever you feel about Kristina, about her going or whatever. If you really care about this state, you'll understand the problem we're in and come join us and help us rebuild. This new chairperson will have struggles. I don't have expectations that they're going to be able to do everything that a state chair that's very seasoned with a seasoned team is able to do. For God's sakes, we have a state chair with no data to even run and send out for candidates. So I think we're going to all pull together like we did on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We're going to get behind this new chair. And the grassroots and the conservative patriots will make it work. We will.
Yeah, I'm also confident that getting a new chair is going to get a significant influx of money from national interest.
Yeah, I think so.
They're not interested at this time to give any money to Kristina. So once we get our act together around here, then we'll get the national money coming in, and that'll help all of us just move forward and deal with whatever bills and legal expenses and what exposure we have. A lot of that can get solved by just paying people back and moving forward. So
yeah,
exactly.
I definitely agree. And to that point, political professionals knew from the get-go it wasn't going to work with Kristina because she had no idea what to do. And that was the end of it. And they've just been watching this all play out. So that changes once they see that there's someone who's capable of being able to lead the party. So we'll see where that goes. Well, on that note, folks, thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. Thank you to my entire panel, Dennis, Jessica, Warren, Patty, Maggie, Daniel, and of course, Bree and Andrew as well. Who must have disappeared the same time I did. Deborah says, what about Ted Nugent? He would rock it. Hey, maybe. Of course, again, the problem was not just someone that can run a party, but someone that's willing to. And thank you guys all for tuning in. If you like this program, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, especially on our YouTube channel. We want to get over 1,000. Maybe we have. I don't know. I apologize to everybody in chat whose chats I could not read, but we had a lot to get through, a lot to go over. And I've got to do some makeup streaming too, because I took a full week off to visit family over the Thanksgiving break. And so we had no stream this past weekend. And there's plenty of other things to talk about too. So we'll probably have a stream Wednesday or sometime during the week. I'm sure I'll do an announcement about it at some point. And as always, guys, thanks.
Isn't there a debate on Thursday?
Is there a debate on Thursday?
The Megyn Kelly debate.
Really? I don't know.
Thank you,
We'll
Adam.
see.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks,
We'll-
everybody.
We'll think about it. I'm sorry, Dennis.
I was saying thank you to everybody, to you and the
All right,
Dan.
yeah, thanks, guys. Let's call it there. Thanks, guys, for all you do for liberty. Until next time, peace out.
Yes,